Go.
You said I mean, I just think in our life's period, we are people that are pro-marriage. Mm-hmm. We want to be married, and we have questions. Mm-hmm. Over the years, we've gotten it right in relationship, gotten it wrong in relationship. And I think we trying to come up with questions and answers and asking people, trying to have mentors, looking at people in their own relationships, kind of like sparked our, desire to we can't be feeling this way by ourselves.
Right.
Like we're not the only ones that are that want to be married and are trying to live the godly way.
Welcome to Harrison Family Values, the podcast, where we talk about faith, family, fatherhood, manhood, and marriage with our guests, Jessica, Ruth, Farrah, and Sharnice. Today, we're exploring a topic close to our hearts, preparing to be a bride. From personal anecdotes to timeless wisdom, the sisters are here to guide and inspire both women and men on this journey of love and commitment. Tune in for a transformative discussion that transcends generations. This is Harrison Family Values, the podcast. Hey, welcome to Harrison Family Values. I am your host, Dre, and I got a special one for you guys today, okay? Yes, I'm outnumbered. The ladies have taken over the podcast, but I think that for us to have genuine conversations about relationships, we have to be open and honest and not come from one side or one perspective. Yeah. So I invited the sisters on to share their perspective on,
that's what's up.
We're just going to let the conversation flow, okay? We're going to have a nice conversation. We're going to vibe. Yeah. And I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves, starting with
All right. I'm Ruth Cogan, and I'm an educator, a podcaster called Heartbeats, and I live in Michigan. So it's cool to be back in my old home, New York City.
Yeah, my name is Jessica, or Jess. I am also an educator. I love God. Y'all should too. No. I love God. And yeah, I love relationship. Mm-hmm. Yes. That's why we're here today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm Farrah. I claim New York. I was born and raised in Chicago, but I've been in New York 12 years. I'm a New Yorker. Mm-hmm. I'm a mental health counselor. I also get to be with little bitty tots on Sundays as a Sunday school teacher, and love marriage, love family. So yeah.
So we got an actual therapist on the show today.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
She's gonna help us with our mind and heart.
That's
right.
That's right. We're gonna cry today. I'm
Make sure our garden's within our well. Hello everyone. I am Sharnice Jenkins Gallant. I am born in New York, moved to Connecticut, back to New York. So I'm all over the place. I am an educator, and I've played many roles in education, but all in a heart of creating a space where people can thrive to be their best selves. I am the co-founder of THL Through His Lens Ministries. Oh, yeah. And that is kind of the message that we don't kind of take our own preconceived notions about life and use that to drive, but we actually allow the Lord to illuminate our hearts and minds to all the possibilities.
Amen.
Wait, sure, I got to do mine over.
Right?
Born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm confused.
It wasn't planned, but it was like, I just got to keep saying it. I got to say that. I got to say that. Sorry.
That is so funny. Yeah. I forgot to tell where I was from. Brooklyn, born and raised, friends.
BK.
Okay?
Yeah. So, no one touched on their relationship status.
Oh, that's
okay. Yeah. So that makes sense.
So, I'm wondering, why? What? Is it just
mine was the nervousness? I wasn't even on my mind, right?
Yeah, not on purpose.
Not on purpose.
Yeah,
not on purpose.
We can reveal that.
It's like I don't want to say too much, too little. Okay,
gotcha.
So I'm single. I'm just saying. Okay. You single?
Wait.
Mingling?
Before we go, let's define single.
Okay, there we go. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I love that. I like that question actually.
So
my go. No, go.
All right, so
I'll give it, because before I got married,
okay,
I was unavailable. if I was single. So I didn't say.
That's a
I
different
got
type
you.
of
I got
single.
you.
Yeah.
I got you.
So
Okay.
like meaning that yes, I'm single, but I'm not available.
I like. Yeah.
That's okay.
So we'll do it like this: single, unavailable, married.
Oh gosh. Okay. Single, unavailable to most.
Ooh, yes.
Okay.
Single, actively waiting.
Okay.
I love that. Very married.
You are. You are.
Extremely married.
Right. Yep.
All right. And married.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
So again, thank you guys for agreeing to join me in this discussion. And you came all the way from Michigan for this.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. This
Yeah,
was
and
fun.
you're all educators, even yourself. I'm
Yeah,
educated also.
that's right.
And I'm not sure if you know this. I have a master's degree in marriage and family counseling.
Yes.
what's up?
They say it on your-
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I
relationships
love
is
that.
my thing
Yeah.
as well.
See? Yeah.
And people don't get it wrong. And I'll give you a backstory of myself. I was an assistant pastor for 10 years. And during that time, I was married to my first wife. And while I was in the church, working full time, assistant pastor, running the youth ministry, spending a lot of time at the church, but not necessarily staying away from my family because they were always there at the church with me. Just we weren't doing family things; we were doing ministry. It led to my ex-wife being a little bit more, unhappy with the situation, and I got it. I understood, and caused her to wind up leaving. In the process of all that, there was no infidelity, no, at least on my part, no infidelity, no abuse, none of that stuff. But after she left, church asked for my resignation, and I had to, and I was going to the church for help. I need help with this marriage thing, and didn't get it. And I realized at that point, churches promote marriage, but they're not equipped to support marriage. Many churches, I don't want to say all churches, but they're not equipped to support marriage.
That's right.
So when when the divorce was final, I had to resign, looking for positions in the church because that's all I knew. No one's hiring a newly divorced single father of 3 kids, and I had custody of my kids, to run any ministry in the church, at least full time. So I went back to school so I can get a degree in marriage and family counseling to support families in the church.
Wow.
And now I'm also an educator.
Right.
And here I am. So relationships is very important to me.
Yeah.
And I try to come from now I'm a man. And because I'm a man, I definitely, without, and unapologetically come from that perspective because I believe in balance. I don't believe a male perspective supersedes a woman's perspective. It does not. There's a balance there because your experience does not, is not negated because I have a different experience. And that's why I'm glad that we're here to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And let's get deep.
Yeah. We're honored. So thank you for having us.
Let's get deep. So I reached out to you, Jess, because I saw the episode that you guys were talking about preparing to be a bride. Okay, preparing to be a bride. In my experience, at least in the church that I went to, that I got saved at, they really had they had an emphasis on young men behaving like young men and doing things that godly young men are supposed to do and holding us accountable to it. And I know not every church is like that,
Right.
but holding us accountable to it. So now I got married, and I thought I knew what it meant to be a husband just by looking at other men trying to prepare to be a husband. And after you get married, you realize that there's not much preparation that could really prepare you and equip you to be a husband. But you guys had that episode, and it resonated with me because I gotta be honest with you, I don't see a lot of that anymore. What I do see is, which I think should happen, but with the balance, the narrative that women should be boss babes. They should be strong, single, and independent.
Right.
Even from the pulpit.
Yeah.
Even from the pulpit. But also, at the same token, from the pulpit, men are being told, you're not doing enough, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Women are being told that they're great, which they are.
Right.
But there's that imbalance
Yes,
there, which
it is.
also could
Yeah.
contribute to the lack of men in the church today. But when it comes to preparing to be a bride, what lessons were you guys taught to prepare you guys to be a bride? Even if you're single, what lessons have you been learning?
Can I just say, do you mind if they kind of just say where they came up with this idea?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you.
Yeah. So,
Share.
I mean, so Sharnice and I, she mentioned all the stuff, and I was like, we together co-founded a women's ministry called Through His Lens, THL. And all of us together have been working together, serving women, encouraging, building them up in their faith, focus a lot on prayer and so on. And so through that, other things have sprung forth. I ended up starting a podcast a couple years ago, which focuses on relationships, specifically how God brings two people together. So I love stories, like love stories. It's a little deeper than just a story, but we'll just leave it at that. And Jess and I, last summer, we were sharing with, shout out to Couture Boyer, Lady K, who could not make it here, but that is my pastor's wife, and who's also part of the series. So we were sharing with her things God was teaching us, what we're learning, things like that. And it was humbling to see a married woman who's been married at that point, 23, almost 24 years, like encouraged and like built up by what we were learning. And I was like, how is this? Is this for real? Like, how is this happening? And she texted us after, and I can't remember the exact text, but basically like, I was so encouraged by our time. If you all want to hang out again, let me know. And I'm like, oh, I'm confused. Like, what's happening? And so we talked about it, and these are just those Holy Spirit moments you got to pay attention to. That idea was just there.
Yeah.
That just planted there of talking about preparing to be a bride. Like that God doesn't just, I mean, sometimes he does. I don't want to put limits on him, but he will prepare us for what he has ahead. So he doesn't just say thrust you into something. He will. And you don't always know it either.
Yeah, that's it.
So I called Shar, said, what you think about doing this series with all of us, kind of a collaboration with her Specs, Jess's social media brand, Heartbeats podcast, THL, and Couture, Lady K. You all got to follow. But and that she was like, I'm down. And when we shared it with Couture, she was like, yes, I'm in, let's do it. And that's when we kind of ran through, here's some ideas. So it's a series, it's a 5-part series. We have finished 3 parts, but different topics of really things that we were learning about and being challenged on.
So where were you guys learning and how were you guys being challenged?
Go.
You said I mean, I just think in our life's period, we are people that are pro-marriage. We want to be married, and we have questions. Over the years, we've gotten it right in relationship, gotten it wrong in relationship, and I think we trying to come up with questions and answers and asking people, trying to have mentors, looking at people in their own relationships, kind of like sparked our desire to we can't be feeling this way by ourselves.
Right.
Like we're not the only ones that are that want to be married and are trying to live the godly way. That's what I think. I mean,
we've been we pick apart their brains all the time over the years, and they are open and transparent with us. But we've made some intentional moves to just to be transparent. Like Jess and I and another friend of ours, we did a virtual marriage conference. It's like, let's learn about some of these things. That was an intentional move on our part. Like, okay, thinking kind of like you said, you come from a male perspective. We come from a female perspective. Hearing how men think and are wired, it was like, oh.
Life-giving.
It was life.
Because the thing is, you guys are not. I said when I say you guys, I'm just collectively, right? You're not.
What do you mean, you guys?
Right? No. And especially in the Black church, it's a heavy women's presence, right? Like so we don't get to hear a lot of what you're thinking and to see it. So when we can, thank you for once again for asking us to be on, but we want to hear it. We want to hear what you're thinking. We don't just want to go around like, yeah, we know what to do. No, we want to know more about, how to do this and what you're thinking and what your thoughts are. So,
So I have a question for the person. Oh, you got something to say? Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say that one of the things that we've been revealing is that while these are things to prepare to be a bride, they're not things that end once you say I do.
Right.
Like
so
there is
my question to you was I was going to ask, well, what does that look like for somebody who's extremely married? Here you go.
Exactly. So talking about submission. Yeah. Talking about active waiting,
that's a curse word. I may have to.
I know.
I may have to edit that word out.
It doesn't have to be a curse word. It's actually a liberating word. If you when done right and in a relationship where you're honoring, cherishing, and loving each other, you submit one to another. Not wife submit to husband only. Yeah. Right. So those were the things that we were able to unpack. Like this is a perpetual thing. So these are the building blocks to a successful marriage. Actively waiting.
I love it.
Still actively waiting on certain things. Right. And some of it is actively waiting together with my husband as we are trying to carry out life's goals and everything. But some of it is, Lord, I have the answer. I had the answer 5 years ago. And I'm waiting on my husband to kind of catch up.
Right.
So what do you do in those moments when you're actively waiting? Waiting doesn't mean stagnation. It means there's some things that you're doing in the wait. And so we unpack that. And then intimacy. That was another thing, like, as married women, how do we continue to cultivate that intimacy? That means it's not just about date night. That means in the most vulnerable of times, am I able to share exactly who I am, what I'm feeling with my spouse, right? And that we've created a space that's safe. And that we can thrive together and grow together. Those are the things, like it continues and it grows and evolves with the union.
Yeah. That's good. No, and especially the safe space part. Because that's something that we have words for it now. I'm sure years ago people weren't thinking about safe space. As a therapist, why do you think that? Well, why is it so important for a couple to have that safe space, and what would it necessarily look like?
I actually kind of am glad that you framed it that way, because when I think about my grandparents, right, who were married over 60 years, we just lost my grandpa right before the pandemic. Thank you, but he was. And I'm so glad I did this. And this is one thing that I try to do regularly, almost daily. There's somebody I love that comes to mind and I appreciate them. I tell them. Right. But my letter to him was, thank you for showing me what a man looks like. Thank you for showing me what fidelity looks like. Thank you for showing me what love looks like. So they didn't talk about safety, in that back in those times. I mean, they were back, in the 30s. Safety was don't get shot because the times are evil, and you're a brown person in America. So that was safety. But now I think that because the world keeps evolving and we do get language and we learn and we figure out like, oh yeah, parenting it can be this way. It doesn't have to be just because, kids are seen and not heard. And so I think that it's sort of the beauty of what we've learned. I feel like both biblically and kind of culturally, we're learning like, oh, there's other ways to do things. So I feel like now safety is about honesty. Safety is about let's make space to have hard conversations. A check-in night. So not like you said, not just date night. It's hard conversation night, and not even hard. These are helpful conversations.
To call them courageous.
Courageous, loving
conversations.
conversations. Yeah. So I think that when you have time to both check in on the logistics of just running a household, but then also just like, how are you?
Yeah.
And you know that it's not going to be attack night. I'm not going to correct you in this conversation. I'm just going to ask how you are. I'm going to listen.
Can I ask an honest question?
Yeah.
If a man does open up and he becomes vulnerable, some men are concerned that the woman, his wife, who he's charged with loving, providing, and protecting, might deem him as weak. So how would us before I even go there, how do you guys view a man who is supposed to be protecting you, but he's having a moment of weakness, he's coming to you for that support and that help? How does that, how do you guys receive that? And let's be honest, because I know of some wives who cannot deal with their rock, being soft at a specific moment, and they could in turn really be disrespectful to their husbands. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm just, hopefully this is, you understand this, but not you, but
Yeah.
I think over the years, I've had to I'm gonna say it starts with me, right? I can be very, and I'm honest, sometimes aggressive, right? Depending on who, the situation.
But is it aggressive or is it forthcoming? Because I think, I'll be honest, and there's a narrative. Like if there's a specifically a Black woman who is vocal about what she
passionate
feels and passionate,
about,
she's aggressive.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily ascribe to that.
I agree with you. Yeah, I'm gonna take that. Also, but also, sometimes when you are single for a long time, there's you feel like you gotta protect yourself, and even I'm an only child as well, so I didn't have the siblings that most people had when I have step siblings now, but I felt like I had to be my own protector, right? Try to get my voice to be heard. So over the years, I've had to learn how to actively listen to people. Remember when we first met, I was like, I'm learning how to listen. So if I interrupt you, sorry, right?
So which is a thing for men. Men do not like being interrupted.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for
so you laughing because you're extremely married husband. No.
Right.
We have even me. So I'll let you.
No, you go.
If I'm interrupted, I'll stop and let the person just go. And then they'll say, well, you're not gonna say nothing? Oh, I'm waiting until you're finished so that I can have a chance to say.
Yeah.
No,
I get it. And sometimes that has to be learned, right? But I'm starting with me because it's helped me to be quiet and understand the other person, regardless if they're a man or woman. I think, just off the top of my head, I think it's a good thing that I don't think a man is weak if they are being vulnerable, if they're expressing their feelings. No, because just naturally, that's another human.
Yeah.
Another human with feelings, with emotions that needs to be heard. Cry like a man, right? I forget the name of.
Did.
Oh, Jason.
Thank you. But he's helped me in that time when we were listening to him on social media and everything. Reading
we read his book.
Yes. He helped me to understand that men should cry. And they can cry. They can be vulnerable, share emotion, and it's okay. Right?
If men don't cry, they break things.
Right.
Yeah.
If we stop men from crying, they break things, either emotionally or physically.
Yeah.
Because they are trying to get whatever they're feeling out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a thing.
And I think overall we just, as singles, we're learning from these two. And we have this idea. We want our future husbands to feel safe. We want to be a safe space.
Yeah.
And it might come with trial and error. Sorry in advance. It might. My intentions are to have you feel safe with me.
And actively working on even, and this is part of the whole premise of preparing to be a bride, is if I suck, am I allowed to say suck on this podcast?
That's fine.
Right.
Nothing harder than that.
If I suck in my relationships now, what makes me think I'm going to be a great wife?
Yeah.
So even when, I mean, I use this a lot, but like if Jess and I, if we ain't that deep of friends, then we ain't going to fight. No, there's nothing to work through.
Yes. Yeah.
So if we got something to work through, am I good at allowing them to express how they feel? Am I giving them the space to make a mistake? Am I allowed to make a mistake? Am I allowing them to see that I understand I made a mistake? So that vulnerability piece, and so we've literally worked at that.
Yes.
Like of actually working through conflict versus ignoring it. Yesterday. Fresh, hot off the press. Yesterday. We had a thing to work through because and it was something I brought up because my friend has created a safe space for me to be human. And for me to demonstrate weakness, for her to call me out on what I did wrong, and for me to practice owning up to my own self and saying, you're right, that was wrong. I should have done this.
Wait a second. So when I said, Jess, you okay? That's what... So that, I mean, but that also means like there's a building of relationship there because when you turn and you say, something ain't right.
And you know this real quick. You was like, no, you need a hug, girl.
Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't know, but it's like, those are the things that we're able to cultivate in relationships with our girls. This is practice.
Yeah.
For what we really desire to do with our husbands. Our husbands are our friends too.
Speaking of which, I have to, because you said that was my segue. Sharnice literally prepared me for my husband. Oh, wow. Their personalities, their ways of doing, they're not the same person, but man, the way I argue, the way I do conflict.
Yeah.
Thank God I had a 20-year friendship first. And then when I got to my husband, I was like,
I know that.
This again. Oh, okay. But I'm softer now.
Gotcha.
Because I'm like, I learned, and I wanted to learn because I loved her so much. I wanted us to work so much. And it was like, what I got to do? I came from some... Be careful.
This is recorded.
A very opinionated, passionate family.
Gotcha.
So, you learn some things. And I'm also a child of divorce. So I've seen it go wrong. And I've seen arguing go wrong. And I saw where vulnerability was missing. So I wanted that. But if it's not demonstrated, you got to learn another way.
Yes. Yep.
So how to talk through something, how to have hard conflict. You learn it through your friends first. And so vulnerability doesn't really start just in marriage. Hopefully you've got lots and lots of relationships to practice with, have somebody bear witness to how crazy you can be, walk with you through that, and then you can forgive you. Because it made me wonder, like the women that you mentioned, if they can't tolerate it. Because I'll be honest, like there's certain emotions that I struggle with tolerating from my family members because I love them. Like it hurts too much when they get to the tears, and I'm like, and I gotta find it somewhere else in me to be there, regardless of me being a therapist. Like that as a human, sometimes it's hard. So I feel like the more that you get to practice and just kind of practice being present, I think you can learn how to love anybody. You can learn to love them in the hardest moments, even if their vulnerability is making you uncomfortable. So when you started with you, I'm like, no, that's everybody though. It starts with us. So
yes,
you started by asking us like what were some of the lessons that we learned to prepare, right? And Farrah mentioned some of these. It was by me watching my parents, my grandparents. I have been very blessed, and I know a lot of people don't have this, where I've been able to witness long-standing relationships. My parents, they're 42 years. My grandparents, almost 60 before my grandfather passed away. Same with my aunts and uncles. So when I watch the wives take care of the husbands, it's like, oh, okay, so they They set up the house. All right. They cook, they serve. Okay. So all of these things are what I've put in my mind in terms of being a wife, right? And because they did it with such love and care and concern, I'm like, this is a good thing. So I want to enjoy that. So when I think about creating a safe space for vulnerability for my husband, when I watched my grandmother take care of my grandfather when he got sick, like to the point of having to bathe him, to the point of having to feed him when he couldn't feed himself, to watching my mother take care of my father in a time where he lost his job, and how through patience went through his emotions with him. All of those things created this woman that I wanted to become for my husband.
Wow.
So now I'm married now. Okay. Let me set up shop.
Yeah.
Let me do this. All of the things. I get so excited, and then I realize, the way I saw that happen, that don't work for him. And you have to make adjustments and changes. And for my whole marriage, and this is part of me, I just want to be a help. I kept saying that. I just want to be a help. I just want to help. And then you realize, well, as a wife, we are called to be helpmeets, right? We are called to be helpers, Ezer Kenegdos. And it's so hard when the ways in which you're trying to help don't feel like they are helping. And when you're watching your husband go through different situations and you don't know how to kind of fix it.
This is not like just a simple question. Did he grow up with his mother and father married in the home?
No.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Yes. So there's a lot of learning, and being dedicated to being a student of him is something that I feel like that is kind of, I'm in Ezer Kenegdo 101 essentially.
That's right.
But to get to your question in terms of when you see the emotions, what does that feel like? It's like, thank you, because you are opening up for me to help, which is the essence of who I am. I want to do that anyway. Right. And so like, I got a glimpse of that prior to marriage when he went through a hard time. And he allowed me in. That was kind of one of the solidifying things, like, oh, okay, yes, we can do this. And so that has always been kind of that perpetual thing. I hope that answered your question in terms of the...
And have you guys ever heard of the Tonight's Conversation? With
we see clips of
clips. Trip Fontaine, it was asked a question. He was asked a question, and his response was about... His response said something to the effect that not many men want to come home. Men have to be hard outside. Not many men want to come home and have to be hard at home also. And sometimes they feel like, if I do get soft, it may add to the insecurity of the woman that I love and I'm supposed to protect. And I can say men do suffer from that, especially if they haven't seen that model of that husband and wife dynamic growing up. And unfortunately, many homes don't have that anymore.
No.
And you mentioned something about seeing your grandparents and then your parents. So you had like a
generations.
A model of that. And at that point, you saw your grandfather and your father at their most vulnerable moments. And your mom and grandmother didn't shame them. And this goes both ways. Today, it seems like if a relationship doesn't serve me the way I need it to serve me, I'm gone.
I'm out.
And I'm out.
Yeah.
And we've lost that. We've lost that. And we see the results of it in upcoming generations. You guys educate us. Sexy Red was a book to speak at at a school.
Okay.
She's an artist, a rap artist. I don't know too much about her. I just saw this story. And she went to the school smelling like marijuana, and the school said, no, you can't come speak to our kids. So instead, she goes outside, blasts some music from a car, starts doing some dancing, and the kids came out, causing a scene. That's the type of generation that we are developing because everything is self-seeking, and it starts from the home. So if my dad is telling me, son, you need to go out there and get your own. All right. If my mom is telling the daughter, don't you give anything to no man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
We start developing generations of young people growing up and unable to connect with somebody. And one of the reasons why I asked that question is marriage. When you're going into marriage, you should be going into marriage with the mindset that I am ready to take care of this person for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
what can this person do for me?
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
When I saw my grandmother take care of my grandfather, I was like, yeah, I'm willing to do that for you. So I called him. I said, I will change your diapers. And
He was
he's like,
like, no, you won't.
No. It's so funny.
But you have to ask yourself that, you know,
question,
and that's the importance of premarital counseling too. They'll ask you those questions. And while I can say we've been through almost every situation that we had to answer in premarital counseling, and we did not handle the situation at all the way we said in premarital counseling, but it gave us a basis, even just an opportunity to think about it. Like, how will we approach this together? So, yeah.
No, so my mother is married to my stepdad for 20 years now. And when they first got married, I was a teen. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing this. No, really, it was like, this is giving slave. I'm just, believe me, my parents, I used to be like, why would you do that? Like, why would you? And of course, with time and maturity and having the community that I have, observing a lot, asking questions. You know, the other day I was with them and for a break in Georgia, and I said, she was putting water inside of a bin so he could soak his feet. And then she started to clip his toenails, and I was like, I want that.
Wow.
Come on.
I was like, whatever that is. And then I was just staring. I was sitting on the couch while she was sitting in front of him, basically, I guess, giving him a pedicure. And I was just like, what? Like, I remember my mindset when they first got married. I was like, I'm not doing and I was like, then now I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do all of that. It's one being like one of you said, being a student, learning the person, but loving the person. Like I love you. Like, and knowing that marriage is about serving. Like I want to serve, and
dying to
you
self.
may not have that mindset at 18. You're not. You may not. And to give myself some grace, I didn't have that mindset. I was like, no. But time and maturity and the Lord definitely brought that on.
Going back to our college days, there were things that we said we are not doing.
Right.
But if I go to some of those things I said I was not doing,
you found it. Right.
I found myself doing those things because of the love that I was able to cultivate with my husband. Like the things that may have seemed nasty or gross or like what, like that feels humiliating. It did not feel humiliating in a place and space of safety and love.
And that's the real safety.
Like to give you an example, for our wedding, the song "Fool for You" by CeeLo Green, that was kind of like our song. It came out like when we were engaged and stuff, and so we sung it all the time, had fun in the car, all the things. So we've already said I do. We're in the limo on our way to the reception. And he was like, oh, by the way, I told the DJ to play our song. And I was like, what? He was like, just go with it. We'll just go with it. So we did. It was so fun. But I was so insecure because, you know, having a lifestyle of being bullied and everything, I never wanted to draw attention to myself. But you can't tell me, I don't know how long the song is, maybe for 5 minutes. It was just me and him having fun. And that's kind of, that's what you end up developing with your significant other over time. Yeah. And so I don't think they're compromises or anything that you're making. It's just like, this is what we've evolved into as a result of the love that we've been able to grow. I have a lot more security because he's accepted me. He's seen me at highs, at lows, successes and challenges, and he loves me.
And doesn't that make it so much easier
to
love him back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yes. Absolutely. 100%. But it was like, it was through his love that I was able to have courage to stand up to certain people or to say certain things, you know?
Wow.
But because it was like, you know how they say, you know, you have your big brother, you know, things like that. Yep. It's kind of like, oh, I got somebody who got my back, so I'm going to say, you know?
Right.
And he trusts me enough not to put him in harm's way or whatever. Like, my man is gonna, you know. But, you know, because of that, I'm able to kind of shine and thrive in a way that I probably never would have before. Especially being bullied and just being me, being bullied for being me. Like, so being loved for being me is, you know, perfect love casts out all fear, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's that kind of love that Paul tells us to give our wives in Ephesians. You know, that's beautiful. Your stepfather.
Yeah.
Right. How was he with your mom?
He's from the South.
But I'm saying, because if my wife is clipping my nails, there's not one worry in the world she has. I got it.
Yeah.
How is he with her?
Well, yeah, that relationship.
No, overall he's a protector. He wants to make, you know, he's a Southern man. He wants to make sure she's taken care of. Like things are already set up. Like she doesn't have to literally worry about anything. And so when
his toenails
and when and so I watched the whole thing. After she finishes, he's like, you want me to do it for you now?
See?
Like she's like, I'm all right, babe. Like
sweet.
Or whatever. But he's very like grateful, like because who's doing that? Like I mean, people are doing it, but I'm saying like very grateful. He's the protector. He's the covering. He's like, I just want to make sure she's okay.
Yeah. I love that.
One of the things we've talked a lot about is observing our mothers. And my mom and dad have been married for 45 going on 46 years. They love being married. They're premarital counselors. They were the first interview I did on my podcast. And amazing story and an amazing relationship. When I was a teenager and probably in my 20s, even early 30s, I did have that kind of feminist, like stand up. You know, if you're in a, my parents get along very well, but I'm saying just like, say something. Like I wanted to see this side of my mom that I didn't see, right? And my mom taught, both of my parents taught a lot by just kind of throwing out comments here or there that stuck. And I remember my mom saying to me, probably in high school, she was like, you know, you all don't know what's said behind closed doors. And, you know, you think I just don't say anything. But I know the right time. When it will be received. Now, in that moment, again, I'm not even putting together male-female dynamics. But as I've gotten older, the more I have, God's been working on my own pride. Because again, you're like, I wasn't like submission. Like I wasn't totally there at all. But it was also just like, well, what? To what level? What cost? You know what I'm saying? So
what I gotta do.
I don't want to become like a robot.
And
so though we've talked about this, though, the more we have seen our moms, the more we're like, no, that's strength.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
That's
strength.
it.
And that's wisdom to see how
Shout out to
Shout
our
out.
mamas.
my
Love you,
mom
Mommy.
has modeled for me like how to build up a man.
Yes.
She like if my mom can find something to praise, this is true
Come
about
on.
her, just anybody.
That's true.
If
What
my
we
mom-
love.
If she can find something to
Wait.
praise, she does it.
Mm-hmm.
And learning when to talk, when to say something, when to address it, and learning more and more about how men are wired. Like my understanding is you don't like us, you don't want your wife to correct you in front of other people, right? It's like it's demeaning, and truthfully, like. You think about like, no, I wouldn't either.
Right.
I wouldn't
Right.
either.
I was just about to say that's
That's
a mutual
that's a
type
mutual
of thing. Yeah.
But just how, but as women, we can be so mouthy. We can just express ourselves all the time. It's like channel it. So watching my mom channel and watching her wisdom and seeing how my dad like really has like he adores my mom and he's confident in her and how my mom sees him. He like knows he really is loved and respected by her. Like that to me, that they've been a golden example. Yeah.
So you talked about submission just now, and that's a hot buzzword in society today. And it seems like you probably saw that being modeled growing up. What is it about submission that has people so up in arms, men and women? Because I hear there's this podcast who young man from Miami. I don't really say their podcast name, but they're young men from Miami. And there's this expectation that women should submit. And I've gotten into conversations with men, Christian men, that believe that. And I said, women like who? Women should be just submitting to men. I said, like, what woman? Because my daughter, I don't have a daughter, but my daughter's not submitting to her boyfriend.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
She won't be taught, she will be taught submission, but she will be told, don't you submit to some man if he doesn't marry you.
Right.
That in my perspective, that submission is a gift given to a husband once he's earned that position. Yeah. It's not something that's automatic. Because men have a third extremity growing between their legs doesn't mean that they automatically warrant submission from a woman. That's right. So, but what is it about that specific word that has people, men and women, like, you better do it for me, or I ain't doing that for nobody? What is it?
Yeah. So we have representation even in this space. Yeah. Of black, white, male, female. Who's not in this room? Yeah. White male. Yeah. The white male is the only one that really doesn't have a problem with submission because technically everyone is submitting to the white man in a white supremacist culture, right? So we all have issues with submission because submitting in America means slavery. It means oppression, right? But if we were in our homeland, submitting to authority means family, love, beauty. Like there's one African culture where they greet each other by saying, how are the children? Because when you take care of the children and when the children are the priority and they are the center, then the society thrives. So our thought, our thought of submission is because we are in a white supremacist culture. I feel.
That's a good point. Yeah, you guys want to add to that? Because that is because when they have these conversations, it's always from the perspective of a male and female. They don't add in the variables that causes us to think the way we do. What are you guys' thoughts on that? 'Cause that's
Yeah, it's
I have a story, but
you do. Well, something I'll say. So I've actually had an opportunity to go to Africa twice, and so the second time, and I wasn't married the first time, and so
Supposed to be there.
I know you sure were. And so we went for my husband's 40th, and what I noticed was the regard that men and women had for me. Just standing next to him, they would assume like, oh, and then once they greeted you, not only would they continue to greet you when you just move from space to space, but once you leave a space, my regards to your wife. It was literally regard for a wife. That doesn't exist here.
yeah.
A lot of times you go to a doctor appointment, that pay a bill, whatever, they look to the man, don't even look at you. So I do think that it bleeds through, how the country is set up, how we see one another, even the pay scale for men and women. I mean, you see that. So I think so part of why I think it's hard though, especially here in America, it's been done over and over again to suppress women. So the fact when you think of the 50s and we think of our right to vote, like we had to fight to be equal.
Yeah.
And we're still fighting to be equal. So it makes sense that the word submission would be like an emotional allergy because you're like, somebody else trying to oppress me again. Except what's really missing is, and part of what I like how you framed it, it's an earned place. Like once you have that safety and that trust, I mean, it's not hard to submit to even a boss if you know that boss has your back, whether you're in the room or not. If you were to have that sense of safety, then you wouldn't have that problem, So, but when submission generally means giving up a right to protect yourself because you're going to need the protection, well then submission would sound like a terrible thing, but it should be just the opposite in marriage.
Yeah.
you go.
Nah, I mean, well, you said you had a story, so
It was more so clarity of what I was saying when I was talking about my parents, right? So I was like, at 18, it was given slavery,
right.
18, that's my view. That was my view of it. Like, she just gonna do everything for him. Just gonna, right? But no, like as I've gotten older and more mature in my faith walk, it's what she was doing was submitting to her husband, right? She was loving him. She was caring for him. She was, if he asked her to do something, she did it out of love. Like she was doing things for him out of love, which at 18 you don't really understand. I'm like, no, that's So that's really what I was gonna say.
Well, which is, I guess I'll piggyback off of that because I don't even know. I'm trying to think of like when I started thinking about these things, but I would see a husband talk to his wife in a very demeaning way. Multiple cases. I'm not just talking about one in particular, right? And I was like, so this is what I gotta do? You get to berate me and I just gotta be like, I love you. Like what? So and to me it looked like just kind of that like mindless Stepford wife type of mentality. And so sometimes if you don't know the dynamic, then the way a wife who has chosen to submit out of love for the Lord and for her husband, it may look like weakness, which is exactly how I viewed how my mom would show up at times. And then learning, no, my mom wasn't just like, all right. She had a voice, and my dad valued and values her voice. But we didn't see some of those inner workings. So I do think submission can look to people who are outside of the faith, to the world, right? As we say, to the world as weakness. As like, oh, you just bending over, all right. Like, but I think when you really, and sometimes it is, like that dynamic is still here even in Christian culture. It is. So, but if you know the dynamic and what is that wife doing and what is that husband doing, there's a whole lot more to that. So
the Gatlins are a couple that was on her podcast, close friend of mine. Actually, I was at this point, but I remember when, and shout out to Toya and Jeremy.
That's right. What up?
And hopefully I get this from what I remember. She was talking about submission, I believe, at my picnic party. And she said, like, so submission to her sometimes is, she was like, I don't agree with everything, basically, that my husband, every idea that he, like, has, right? And I'm like, yeah, because she's like, because some of his ideas are like, oh my gosh, like, you want to do that now? But she's like, but I trust, and I'm paraphrasing, I trust the God in him. Like, I trust to be like, okay, we're going to do this. That was her one form of submission. I was like, oh, I like that. So I don't have to be like, I agree with you. Everything you say. No, but if I'm with you, I obviously there's a trust that I have for you, and you possess the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And so I'm trusting that. Yeah, I'm trusting the Holy Spirit. That's really what I'm trusting. That's really who I'm submitting to. So
that's good.
And that's what Keturah talked about too. She was like, we are submitting to the Holy Spirit that allows us to submit to one another. And like I joked saying I was supposed to be at that Africa trip, and I realized, but I was submitting to authority. And when I think about that, it was a fear. And I think that's that when you're submitting in that way there and you feel that fear, it's not true submission. In true
that's dictatorship.
Submission,
wow.
Yeah, that's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Right. When you think about, even if you think about educators who say, oh, they got a good rein on their class. No, it's the kids are afraid of them.
Right.
You know, do you want to have an atmosphere where the kids don't feel like they can just be kids? And that's not a safe space. That's not optimal learning. That is fear. Driving compliance, excuse me. But when you have submission, and I think this is like when we're submitting to the Lord, we love the Lord because he first loved us. We submit to the Lord because he has walked alongside of us, and we have faith that he is going to carry us through. That's the same type of submission in a marriage, even in a relationship. We can submit to one another because we are honoring one another. We're cherishing one another. We're actually living out 1 Corinthians 13. And when you think about all the things, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, it keeps no record of wrong. None of that has anything to do with romantic, partners or anything like that.
And that scripture that is for all Christians to be behaving.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, we use it in weddings.
Right.
It's for everybody.
That's right.
But
those are the things that allow submission to be healthy in relationships.
So tough. I heard it like this, and if you've ever been an educator and you've taken your kids on trips, you understand this. It's you cannot protect who's not submitted to you.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Can you say it one more time?
Yeah. You can't protect who's not submitted to you.
No.
And that's just universal.
Yeah.
That's just universal.
That's deep.
As a teacher who takes kids on trips, it looks like, all right, if you, even though, like, I'm gonna say it. In the DOE today, you cannot tell kids no, they can't go on the trip.
Right.
But we could tell them if your parents
come with you,
parents come. Because at least there might be a submission there, and that submission, and the only reason why it's necessary is because I have to protect 24 to 30 students.
That's right.
On a trip.
Yeah, that's
right.
And if they do not submit to my leadership, then they are in danger.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. How it might look like in a marriage, which may set some women off. What it might look like is, hey babe, I'm going out Saturday night with some of the girls. All right, cool. Saturday night comes around. It's like 9:30 at night. She comes downstairs, and the outfit she has on is like, put out.
Right. Yeah.
And He's thinking, she is going to get attention that these men are going to look at her in a very negative way. She's thinking, he just wants to control my life and not allow me to have a good time. So he's not going, right?
Yeah.
And he might even say, if we were going out together,
not a problem.
Not a problem because I can protect you.
Right.
I won't be there to protect you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the wisest thing to go out in that outfit. That's that kind of submission in a marriage is a beautiful thing because it's not coming from a place of control.
Right.
But I also wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder if the woman would wear something like that in a marriage where there is submission. I wonder if that's even a thought.
Yeah.
Because even some of our sexiest outfits still kind of have some type of modesty to it.
Yeah.
To a point where it's not going to disrespect you or your husband because you're recognizing that you are representing.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. A husband who's looking to protect isn't concerned at that moment on you representing him. He's concerned if a guy thinks he's going to get saucy with his wife and touch her in a place that he's not supposed to, he's not there to protect.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because that's where submission could go toxic. When the conversation is, and yes, we represent each other when we go outside.
Right.
Which is why we wear wedding bands. So there's an element there. But if his main concern is, you're not going outside with me like that, this is where you red pill dudes are going to get angry with me. It's fine. If his first thought is, you're not going outside like that because you represent me.
Yeah.
That's selfish.
Yes,
that's not even.
That's dictatorship. That's But if his response is, babe, if you go out there and something happens and some guy goes, goes left, I'm not there to protect you, and I don't want to put you in that position. You know, that's where the line is drawn too. You know,
I love it though.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful because and again, a lot of I have friends from female friends who are all over the gamut on this. And I don't, at least where I'm at now, I'm not going to try to change their perspective in the sense of like, find a man that matches where you're at. So there are men that also are like, yes, women, who aren't a big fan of submission either. You all join together.
And don't submit to one another.
You guys do whatever you want.
Go ahead.
Tell us how it goes.
But I think at the heart of most women, and I'll say it for myself, we want to be protected.
Yeah.
Like we want to we want to know that we're taken care of and so forth. But but to me, I think part of our journey with submission is the heart of trust. So when we were having the submission discussion on our preparing to be a bride, one of the things we were talking about is, again, from the single side of submission, if I can't submit to God, who has earned my ultimate, he is the ultimate trustworthy one.
Right.
Yes.
Again, what makes me think I can submit to a husband who is imperfect?
That's right.
If you look at it anecdotally, people who are talking about that kind of stuff aren't living a life submitted to God. Yes.
Right. And so I think learning, like, you can trust the Father. You can trust God. So if he's asking you to do something, trust where it's coming from. And I think part of my own introspection work is going, why am I scared right now? Like, God's asking me to do this thing. Why am I scared? Why am I feeling like I'm not worthy of this blessing, right? And so those are aspects of trust. And then you bring that into a marriage space. Again, it's two imperfect people. I get it. But do you trust the heart or the good will of that other person?
And it's a process.
Yes.
That doesn't happen day one. That doesn't even always happen at I do.
Yeah.
Like you have to learn it. And there are different situations that you go through that you think, oh, I'm good. We in a trusting relationship, and then something happens, and they're like, wait, got to get my bearings right again.
Right,
you know?
That's true.
But having the patience to allow trust to be built up is important.
Yeah.
And that was something that I was grateful for. This was like one of our first kind of issues, finances, you know, paying bills the way I pay bills. As long as everything is paid and we got $14 in the account, we good because everything is paid. And he had a different approach. And he asked me one day, he said, can you just trust me? And I was like, I didn't realize that I wasn't trusting you. And so I went through the process. And going through the process, being honest, we created something together that works for us both. And that's where like the submitting to one another kind of comes in.
And that's an understanding that people are gifted or talented in one space or the other.
That's right.
Whoever's not good with the finances, male or female, or husband or wife,
Right.
They got to submit to the other person and say, listen, you take care of this because, and on all areas. The vetting process. So it's a matter of self-accountability. So if you find yourself in a position where you're with somebody, you marry somebody that you do not trust, then you did a very poor job in choosing the person that you're with. As a therapist, like how important is it for people to spend some time vetting? Because I'm the type I tell people all the time, right? And from my own experience, the vetting process is extremely important.
Vital.
Because there's vetting, and then you're able to identify who a person is in that stage.
That's right.
Then there's marriage. You see who the person is in that stage.
That's right.
So the vetting process for people, like, why is that extremely important?
I'm going to complicate it and also make it extremely simple.
Please do.
And I say this because I got a lot of feelings about this because, you know, especially when you're a young Christian, you're like, I just want to please God. God, what do you want me to do? Where's my husband? Where do I go? Where do you want me to be? And you have all these giant life purpose questions. You're waiting for God to like drop it out the sky. And that is not what he does. And then people gave me scriptural answers like, well, your purpose in life is just to serve God and please him. Thank you. Yes. Now, what career, man, place do I live? And then you paralyzed because you're like, I don't want to make a misstep. And then again, child of divorce, I'm like, that's not going to happen to me. So my vetting process was extreme because I'm like, I want to stay married. I wanted to be happy. I had a list upon list because it was like, I can't mess this up. And then you hear sometimes these very scary sermons like, now the person you choose, that's the, and it's true. I mean, that has the biggest shaper in your life. They're not the end all be all, but they're important. So I was a little scared and I was trying to do so many things to the point where I've even, I'm going to edit a little bit because I want to protect the innocent. But, but part of what I mean is, here's the simple parts. Do you like him?
Right.
That's a big question. Do you like him? Do you like him? If you don't like him, God did not send him. People be trying to push people on people. I think the Lord, I just see, don't you prophet lie. If you don't like him, that's not that person's husband. That's number one. Do you like him? Number two is anybody else in your life like him? If you don't get along with nobody, that's probably not him.
No.
You're marrying one person, that's true. But if your community that you feel yourself in and you feel safe with, and they have spoken into your life and given you good counsel and provided for you in moments when you didn't have nothing and encourage you, to get back to your strongest self, doesn't like them at all, that should be, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And lastly, when you go to bed at night and you think about this person, are you smiling or frowning? Are you crying? A, B, or C? It's in some of those, and I say it simplistically because when we're wrestling, if you're wrestling hard about, is this the person? I'm not sure. And
Yeah.
No.
That,
There are things in life that are difficult, but you're not gonna feel the safety, the rightness of it is that's gonna be the simplest part. The last thing I remember, the last moment before I got married, I was in the bridal chamber in the suite that right before I was gonna walk down the aisle, I was alone. And I had a silent moment by myself. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad I gave that to myself. I think it was the Lord, though, who was like, just pause.
yeah.
And I was quiet. And I gave myself, because again, I've had list upon list. I was 33. I waited for sex, waited for all of it. And I'm like, all right, God, is this it? This is it, right? And I waited. And there was this calm. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't sadness. It was like this very gentle, basic, but like sure, yeah, you can do that.
Did you exhale?
Waited
Yes,
to
I
exhale.
We waited till
And it was just it was like one of the calmest yeses I had. There wasn't even a big flutter, which I was almost like, should I be fluttering or should I? But I was just sure.
So again, so what I love about that is at that point you knew this marriage is about something bigger than me. You weren't fluttering, you had peace at that moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So this marriage wasn't just about you. And the vetting process, you finding somebody that you actually could like is a big thing. Because you know, if you wind up marrying somebody you don't like, that is definitely the definition of settling.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like settling.
And I want to put a double stamp and an amen on the bringing community into your vetting process. It is so important. Farrah and I, we've known each other for 25
Roundabout.
years. Lord, I feel old. You old. And in college, I was engaged.
Okay.
Submission. That's really that could be the thing. Submitting to authority. That was the decision, the deciding factor. But Farrah said, if you marry that person, I will not be in your wedding.
Wow.
Ooh.
And that was such
What are
that
you sorry about?
Right, exactly.
No, at the moment
so
it was
hard.
like heart-wrenching,
It was.
crushing.
Wait, Farrah, was you right?
And
Were you right?
oh
Yeah.
Lord,
Yeah.
hallelujah, I did a anyway.
Praise Jesus.
Hindsight 2020, that was the greatest act of love any friend
Facts.
could give.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh, that's good.
Did it make me leave him just then? No. But that also is because part of me is I don't leave. I'm loyal. I'll make it work. I'll fix it so that, you know, if I just fix the situation and she accepts him or everybody else accepts him, then we'll be good.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the mindset. So, but I bring that out to say that we have to be willing to keep our ears open to the people around us in this vetting process. Because if not, honestly, I think I would have the kids that I'm waiting on right now if I married that person. I would have been barefoot and pregnant, like right away, probably, you know? But would I have been, I won't even say happy, I'll say blessed.
Or even
Would
the
I
person
be-
you are today.
Would I be the person I am
right,
today?
right.
Would I be a fraction?
Right.
Or would I be a fraction? And I would probably be non-existent as Sharnice Linnea that I am today. But that came from that vetting process. So my husband, I'm sorry, Keo, he went through.
Yeah.
He met all the family members. He met, and they loved him.
strongly
They
vetted.
loved him.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He was a good
He met
sport.
the friends. And everyone gave him a hard time. Like my aunt, she saw him, gave him a hug. Oh, happy to see you. You do anything, I will hurt you. Like it was just like, he was like, yes, ma'am. Like he was threatened.
Yeah.
But what that also showed me was that he was saying I was worth it. I was worth going through that vetting process. And when someone goes through that,
that's a man who understands that I'm marrying into a family and I'm not pulling this woman away from that. Joining a family. That's
which is why it was his idea for me to hyphenate my name. My dad asked, is there some way that, we can keep her name because, I didn't have any boys, so our family name leaves. And he was like, oh, absolutely. And then I said, okay, I'll just make it one of my middle names. And he was like, no, let's hyphenate. It's like two families coming together. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Like, the Lord knows exactly who we need to be in union with. And when you submit to the Lord, he sends, who we need to be in our space.
So, single ladies. Single ladies. Expectations. How important is it for him to meet them all? And are they realistic?
Interesting question.
To meet them all, and are they
realistic,
like expectations?
Realistic. Can I just kind of piggyback? Maybe it'll come into this.
Absolutely.
I guess it's a requirement, right? Yeah. One of my requirements is for my future husband to have community.
Yes.
Like and that's because I know how important it is. Very early on, I would say even in elementary school, God would help me to understand how friendships were, right? I went through my good and bad. My mother was like, that ain't no friend right there. But, you're like, that's my friend. That's my friend. And she like, that ain't no friend. That ain't it. And then you realize as you get older, you're like, no, that really was not my friend, right? At 16, I asked her, when I gave my life to Christ, I was like, I need friendships. I want friendships, Father. I want friendships from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, whatever it is. That's what I want. Because I just knew, I didn't have siblings. So I knew the importance of, I took my friendships very serious, right? And was hurt when they didn't work out. That's a part of growing up. I do. And I guess you can call it an expectation. I want him to have a community. I want him to be able to go to his friends and talk things out. I'm not going to always be...
Right.
Yes.
A satisfier.
Right? And you might need to go to somebody and be like, no, she doing this today. Like, what does that mean? And what should I do? That's an expectation. That's just one thing I need to have. And if he doesn't have it right now, I'm praying that he gets it. Right. And maybe he can. My friends have husbands. That could be his new community.
Right.
Right. So
you might be instrumental in helping him develop a community.
Absolutely.
I've seen that dynamic.
Yeah.
But
He answered Andre's question, and then we'll come back to me.
No, I mean, of course. I have expectations, right? I think the certain ones, like you said, there's certain non-negotiables. Like, you gotta love Jesus.
Right.
And not just go to church. Like, you gotta love Jesus and be submitted to him.
Yeah.
So, like, those sorts of things are super important. I think as I've gotten older, I've been challenged in kind of my Disney expectations. This is something we talk about a lot too, because this goes back to
that's all of us right
real.
there.
No, it's absolutely.
Real.
Yeah. And I've had conversations with friends of mine who are in their 40s that are still single. And the expectations that existed,
men? Which one? Okay.
When they were 25 still exists at 45. And I asked, like, I'm not telling you to cheapen your, like, who you are as a person, but identify what do you think would be important for you to have a lasting relationship with somebody?
That's
Because like their lists haven't changed and they are not budging.
Yeah.
And it's still producing the same result
Yeah.
as it did 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I think actually one of the things, I'm sure we've all talked about this.
And
No,
then
go
we'll go
ahead.
to expectations of men, because there's some stupid expectations that we have too.
Okay.
No, but
I can't wait to hear it.
You can't help but imagine, and that imagining creates an expectation.
Yeah.
I will say, I want to be very clear. I love the church.
Yes.
I love the church, but no, it's an and. And I think the church has, perhaps unintentionally, or maybe intentionally at times, promoted certain ideas that have not been helpful.
Yeah.
So, for example, as women, we did hear a lot of that teaching of like, man, you gotta stand up and be the leaders and blah, blah, blah. And it was so drilled in that we actually never heard, so men are sinful.
Mm-hmm.
They make mistakes. Yeah. Their leadership won't be perfect. Their submission won't be perfect. And
can I add something?
Yeah.
Or they have intrinsic value outside of that.
Right. They're not only just the leader.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And that they, you brought up earlier about creating that safe space for men to come home and just breathe, right? And be vulnerable and cry or whatever they need to do. Can they be weak in front of you? Well, if you're always told men are supposed to be strong, then as women, for myself, that, you're essentially looking for a man near perfection.
Yeah. And I'm sure that is heavy for you guys.
Yeah.
That's a weight.
Right?
Yeah.
I know men now who won't move forward. Because I'm for real. They won't move forward because they feel like they are not enough.
Yeah.
They've been hearing that. You got to be this leader.
Right,
You have to have,
right.
and it's like, I don't even know how. I don't know how. And the thing is, like you said, Sharnice, we are helpmeets.
Right.
That's the point, right? To come together and be able to figure this out together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that has been very important for us to go, well, why do I think this way? And let some of that down. And again, to your point, community is so important because when we talk as women and as friends, I have several other women who have shared with me, as married women, shared with me things over the years and challenge a lot of my churchy expectations. Wow. Like for real. Like we joke all the time. We're like, so we'll just stay in the church pew. All right, Lord, we're here to worship. Okay, how about you get up and and even like even as a single female starting a podcast interviewing people about couples. I was like, no, I'm supposed to do that as a married woman. And no, how about you operate in the purpose and calling God has given you now. And so empowering myself to do that now. But I think the expectations, I think the Disney ones of really of realizing men are human. I'm human.
Right.
Human. I'm human. But also like some of the churchy ideas that have been pushed actually aren't biblical. They're not.
We've had to unlearn a lot of stuff. Yeah. And I'm always I always try to take up for the church. Meaning, nothing you said is wrong, but it's like they did what they knew. Yeah. That's
absolutely.
they whatever they saw their parents do, their grandparents do. Right. That's what they did. Right. And that's what they taught us, right? And it's up to us to like, okay, let me get in this word for myself. What does it say? And what does it say and how can I apply it to my own life? Yeah. And be active in unlearning some things and being okay with that. Right. I've had to, talk to my mom a lot about just, certain things. She is like head on, like, this is, and I'm like, and we've had matches, like, arguments. And I'm like, no, that's how she grew up. That's what she knew how to do. Be okay with that. You don't have to live that same way. Yeah. Let's move on. Yeah. So,
So, no list.
Oh, that ain't
There,
true.
right? I was gonna say there is a list.
There is. Oh, all right.
There's
I'm
a
like,
list.
there's always a
But
list.
you know what? That list, I'm not gonna lie. It's like at one point I was saying, and see, that's what I'm talking about. Y'all gotta stop me. I said I'm gonna tell too much. I'm good. Yeah, and at a certain age, I'm like, I don't want any baby mama drama. Like, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who has children. That was my early 20-something year old, mid 20-something, late 20-something, maybe early 30s. Early 30s, and yeah, I'm trying to think when I was like, no. I mean, as you get older, if people are gonna have children.
Yeah.
There's more of a percentage of people having children.
That's right.
Men having children. So I'm like, I do well with children at school. Guys,
You're great with kids.
I can do this.
Yeah.
And then it's like I get the if I come into relationship with someone who has a child, I get the opportunity to like inspire and influence. Right? They may not be along my legacy, I guess my lineage or whatever, but I'm like, I get to play a part in that.
Right.
I get to play a part in that.
Yeah.
I'm a step, right? I have a bonus father, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a bonus child too, right? And one time this man was prophesying to me and he was like, the lineage, right? He was, I don't know, I'm being OD like that. But he said, he was just like, there's ministry there. Yeah. It's in your lineage. Like it's in your, and I was like, it ain't my biological dad. Like he talking about, but it was just, I knew it wasn't. I love the Joneses, believe me. But there was.
So your last name is Jones.
Jones.
You took his last name?
No, but people know his last name is Run.
Okay.
But he I felt like God was saying something in that, right? There was, God put my mother and my stepdad together for a reason, and I benefit from it because of it. But it also goes back, I don't know if it's adoption, right? Being adopted into the royal family, right? Nice. I mean, privilege, honor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We are joint heirs with Christ.
But I would say this: I was, I can't say turned down. I had 3 kids, 3 sons. I had custody of them, so it wasn't like they were living with me. Yeah. It made me less desirable to
others.
Okay. And I got it because even for an educator, like teaching 23 kids is different than raising one.
That's true. Right. Yeah, I agree with different. You. I agree.
So it does take somebody that has an open heart for everybody.
But that's allowing God to do that. Yes. Remember, I couldn't. I was very like, no. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I'm more open to it now. I'm more, but I can. My bonus father. I hate to use the word. We don't really use that.
No, bonus. Yeah, bonus is a good.
I remember the first night.
My wife uses that.
You use bonus. Yeah. The first night they got married, I'm 17 years old and I'm like crying like a baby because I'm like, Mom, losing my mother. Like because that's all I knew, right? I'm losing my mother. And he was like, no, don't look at it like that. Look at it as you're just gaining a dad. He has never treated me like a step, like not even a bonus. Like I'm literally his child. And I'm like, look how God set me up. Yeah. To like, there's a possibility I could be with somebody who has a child. But look, I got the experience. Yeah. Like he knew exactly what I would need.
That's right.
And I
so that's no longer, cross that off your list. That's no longer.
Right. No, it's no longer on the list. No.
You gotta look at those lists like we've talked about this before too. There are sometimes unspoken expectations. Yeah. They aren't written on the list. But they're there. So it's not like I ever wrote on the list a man with no kids. I never wrote that down.
Yeah, I wrote it.
But
in pen.
Sealed it with a heart. No, I never wrote that down. I just was like, I never see that happening. Yeah. But that, I think again, as you get older, God has opened my heart to that. Yeah. It just, but truthfully, I just never thought about it prior to, prior to that time when, God started like that friction. Yeah. I would say the list has a lot, quote unquote list. I probably wrote one down when I was like 22, I don't know. But the list has a lot more to do with character.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's what it is. It's like, I want, yes, Lord, attraction, please. Like you want all the things.
Good.
Like
Somebody did say that in one of your interviews, that she wanted a guy that looked good outside. Yes. And is that you?
No, it's Katora.
And look good.
Katora would say that.
But again, it's really, I had so much fear growing up in middle school, high school, college, that God would send me a man that I was like,
I guess
same,
right?
Yeah.
Kind of what you were talking about. Like,
Yep.
I don't really actually like him or like looking at him, but
no,
but we'll do it. We'll make it work. But I really, that was a huge fear, and so now, like, who said this? We got to shout out. I think Dr. Faisal's. It's a newer podcast that we've listened to, but he talked about like God created attraction.
Yeah,
like he knows you intimately. Yeah. He knows like what Jess be attracted to is not the same. We have a lot of overlap, but it's not the same stuff. You two are married to different men. Like
that's right.
God knows how to shape your eyes, your heart for that person, and that was something like my parents really drilled into me, and just from their example of like God gives you eyes for that person,
right?
That's right.
And so even like check-in of like, and this is real, because women, we love to be told we're beautiful, like we love that like attention and affection, but my dad taught me a lesson in college that I was upset at that time because men weren't checking for me. I saw them checking for all the other girls in the Christian group, in college. And he was like, that's not what you want. He's like, that's a biological response. He's like, you want a relationship.
Yep.
And I was like, ooh, hold up. It actually took me some time to really like process that. And so actually that has been very helpful, because when a man says something like that to me, I'm like, he know nothing. About me. This is a biological response.
That's right.
And
very
this
limited.
is not, and it's exhilarating, because they're like, oh, thank you. It's appreciated, but it's also like, yo, but that is not the heart of attraction.
Right.
Yeah.
That is really not what, when people think attraction is like, he fine. It help, but if he mean, if he rude,
doesn't even matter.
guess what? I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
Blair Underwood from, what's that movie? Most of the movies. A demean.
Blair Underwood. It could be Set It Off.
That's
what.
No, not Set Off, because he was a good guy.
He was a good guy.
He was a good guy.
I think it was one of Tyler Perry's movies. When
he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, being mean to his wife.
Being mean to his wife.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
man.
not attractive.
No.
So I think there are men I have found attractive over the years that others would be like, I mean, why? But it's because like their character, their heart is so in, and so to me, it's like learning about what attraction really is, like what God knows your desires, what you need.
That's right.
And so he will draw, I'm trying not to sound fluffy, but whatever. He will draw your heart to the heart of that person.
Yes.
Because you see these things in them that you're like, wow, it's like God crafted you just for me. Yeah. And that's really like, that's attraction.
And this takes preparation.
Back to the word.
Which people don't want to go through. Like,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Ruth and I have been on this like intentional journey for preparing. Hence why we have, the series. But there's a lot we have learned in regard to it's, the character behind the person, and what's the root of this, and sweat, this is how I am. Like there's I really want people to understand. You mentioned earlier, God will not thrust you into anything, right? Yes. Even if it seems like, a thrust, it might feel like, wait, no, he's been peering you for a very long time. Sometimes we're more aware when it's happening. Sometimes we're not.
Well, David's a good example. And again,
That's a good one.
David
Yeah.
is I look at David's life as a cautionary tale. Right. I don't. So
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be honest. I don't look at him as the hero in the Bible that many people do.
Right.
It's a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Okay. He has some high moments. He has
Yes,
some very
he
low
did.
moments.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when he fought Goliath, right? That preparation, we would see it and be like, he's out there with a sling and a rock, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
And not understanding his God's preparing him, like how God
Yes.
prepared him for that exact moment.
Yeah.
You know, like like slaying the lion and the bear, and now he's slaying Goliath with the very same tool.
Yeah.
In that preparation, we could look at somebody, right?
Yeah.
And we could even think, man, they got thrusted into this position and not understand that God was already preparing that person.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
And the prepreparation didn't look like what we expected it to
Come
look.
on.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
happened.
Now you're preaching.
That's
No,
it.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
it.
good stuff.
That's
It's
it.
true. It's true.
That's it.
Because I was definitely, y'all know, because my husband, we were friends for years before there was ever a dating relationship, and I wasn't drawn to him romantically. I just wasn't. It was just like, this is my boy. I like him.
Yeah.
He's cool. He's trustworthy. He's, he was about that life.
Yeah.
But I saw.
But she does think you're fine, bro.
Yeah, she does.
Fine.
She does. Yeah,
I do. See, no, but this is why I can brag this way.
Yeah.
Because our chemistry was it was fiery, and we argued about silly stuff, and that was kind of more what it was. We still do that now.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was, and this is where I've learned, and this is, why I credit God knew what he was doing. I met Sharnice when we were 18, and I didn't meet him until I was 20, I don't know, something late 20s. And so the thing was, he's like a quiet giant. When he doesn't speak a whole lot, especially when it's just he and I, but it's like he's listening, he's observing. That man has never yelled at me. We've had intense conversations and arguments, but I'm never threatened, ever. I know I never will be. Yeah. And I have very protective brothers. That couldn't be a thing, which is why community, that's why I said those three things, they sound silly, but they're not. Because, and so now when I see, and what ended up happening was with all of this safety and all of this trust over all these years in friendship and in marriage, that man, he get more fine every year. It's like he was already he was cute when I met him. It was like, oh, my friend, my buddy. And now it's like, wait, and I do this. He walks around the house and I'm like, just stay right there.
You would do that. Yes.
And I love celebrating. Like, I have no problem celebrating that. So, but the truth is, and I think there's this passage where it talks about a ring in a pig's snout. Some women are beautiful on the outside, or some men are beautiful on the outside. You don't know them though.
Nope.
That's not going to sustain. Whatever's really in them is going to come out, and their face will morph.
Wow.
No,
You know what I'm saying? That voice is not sultry anymore. You're like, oh God. So it's, and I wrote a post on Facebook about this very recently, but like my decision, similar to the reason I chose Christ. Right? So we talk about him loving us first. But the reason why I keep choosing, and I know there's a lot of deconstruction going on and all of that of the Christian faith, and I my heart breaks for it. But it also lets me know, like, something didn't happen when you encountered God. Something didn't happen when you encountered this person. And when we talk about vetting, it's just time spent. Rich, real time. In my lowest, deepest prayers and how God did something. I'm like, oh, wait, this is why I trust him. And sometimes it's stuff I didn't say out loud. I'm like, how did you provide that? And so there are things where my husband will show up and I'm like, how did you know And so those moments, I could be unsure on other days, but those moments, I'm like, nah, I don't know how I earned this. Maybe I didn't earn it. Maybe this was grace. And then that's where it goes back to knowing God and knowing your husband are not that, it shouldn't be that different. And so having God as sort of that primary, it's the unsaid part of the list. Find somebody that reminds you of God. If you haven't met him yet, find somebody that knows him so you can be mentored by what that could be like.
That's good.
Wow.
That's
So
good.
Reminds you of God.
For guys.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. The whole lady in the streets, but
Freak in the bed.
Yeah, again, men have some crazy expectations. It's the expectation of submission. It's the expectation that they have to look a specific way. they want a woman who has character, but they don't lead with that.
Yeah.
Nor do they
Yeah.
care much about it, because
Yeah.
really it's all about the physical. So it's difficult today, especially in today's modern dating streets, because a lot of it is focused on what can I get from this individual that will benefit me. And again, as I said earlier, not what can I do for this person.
Right.
So from the that's why looking for somebody, vetting, prayerfully finding somebody that doesn't just go to church, but
Right.
that is that is the church. That understands the church. Or somebody said not saying, hey, well, I'll come to church with you. I forgot who it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody who was already grafted in is important.
Yeah.
With the right mindset.
Yes.
They may want a wife that's beautiful, but they're leading with her character first. But I do wanted to talk about this before. I know we've been talking now for going on almost 2 hours.
Wow.
Really? Oh, really?
Didn't even realize it.
When you're having fun.
Here's my question, okay? Coffee dates.
Coffee dates.
Coffee dates as a first date. Yay, no, why?
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
no, I'm trying to think.
And don't think Starbucks. Don't think Starbucks.
Right.
Think like a nice quaint,
Right.
A
mom
nice
and pop
quaint
spot
coffee
that's-
date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. Well,
Or Cheesecake Factory.
the conversation at the coffee date.
Yes.
Because you can have a superficial conversation.
Yep.
And so it's really about like, what are you talking about during that time?
Yep.
That can, like, if I feel in the moment like, oh, I could enter into a friendship with you and we can vibe on some things, or even if we disagree on some things, you still respect what I like, I can respect what you like. Those are the things that I kind of look for. So as long as that's a part of the situation, anywhere.
Okay. That's a good point. That's a good
true.
point. Yeah. Yeah.
It's no, first date especially.
Okay.
That's because you're just talk. Like at that point, you're trying to
Well,
talk. Okay.
yeah. No. So I was telling you, because I've been telling you guys, like, I'm over the whole dinner dates.
Oh, sure.
You know, you go to dinner and it's, oh, let's go to lunch. And I'm like, no, let's just rock climb. Let's just do something fun.
Yeah.
That's been my like thing. Like, I want to do something fun first. Because at that point, we've already talked a lot. How we get there? Unless it's a blind date, unless it's a like, meet here.
Yeah, sure.
But but I like the coffee date. I don't think I've ever thought about coffee shop or just where it allows you to like talk and versus dinner where the lights are dim.
Yes.
Expectations.
Expectation of how I gotta dress up, look a certain way. I can go to a coffee shop or have a coffee date like this.
Can I share something with you guys?
Go.
Yeah.
Please.
A lot of men are intimidated by dating because they feel like they have to put and invest so much in the beginning,
Right.
Yeah.
without getting not something similar, but much in return. So they feel pressured that because she expects me to do so, I have to do this. And in order to impress her,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to hear your thoughts about that, because I don't believe that trying to make a first good impression is particularly healthy for building a lasting relationship.
Yeah.
I have the mindset that I'm going to present my true self.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and taking somebody out on a $400 or $500 date in the very beginning doesn't allow the opportunity for this person to get to know me.
That's right.
Right.
But you say something.
No, I was listening to I guess it was a Facebook post. It was a video. So you just never know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But the woman was talking about how she was on one of these dating apps and the person asked her for a coffee date rather than taking her out. And she was like, oh no. Because what she was saying was, you're saying that I'm not good enough to invest in this, in this thing. And I was like, but I don't necessarily know if that is a full representation of that person's heart. You know, just being able to spend money on you. You can have someone who spends money on you and then treat you like a slave.
Absolutely.
And treat you like, you know, so that can't be the deciding factor how much money is being spent. But if in a place and space someone is coming as their real authentic self, which is, I feel, a big investment, right? If at face value, they give you that privilege and that gift of seeing who they really are, like that's priceless.
I'm having this thought though. It's a spinoff. It's different than what you're saying. I'm in agreement.
I
though.
want you to be a
No,
we don't have to be.
I'm just
like,
thinking about because I'm having almost like a newish thought to it. Because now, truth is, my mama is she. I don't think she remind me saying this because this is part of the pillars. This is part of what an earlier question you asked. Like, what were you taught, Bill? My mom was like, we don't believe in cheap men. No, and to her point, you're worth investing in. So. In some ways, I was taught to look for that, like look for the man that's willing to pay for the thing and do the thing. But really what I think is more this, like this is my current thought about that. Cause I said yay fast with the coffee date because you want to get rid of pretense as much as possible.
Exactly.
You want to be present. Don't be nervous and trying to, it's a show. Like you don't need a dog and show kind of pony thing. But I think that what happens is though, if it's a millionaire who's like, let's go get coffee. And they go to like a bodega and they got like a paper cup and they're like, here you go. This is our date. No. So I think that part of it almost reminds me of like when we're giving at church. It's like, give your best. And then you're like, man, forgot about the giving part. I got 5 cents in my pocket. There you go. But I make 6 figures and I just show up because it's social. How you give of yourself when you're, trying to show that you want to get to know somebody. Like it's like genuine interest. I think it needs to match who you are and what you bring. So I don't think that there needs to be lots of money front loaded. And I think that there should probably be caution not to do that. But like, what kind of coffee shop is it? Is it in a nice space? Do you pull out the chair? What are you having today? Do you help? You know what I mean? So like, you can show up in $1 million way in a place that's just modest, and kind of, so I feel like the quality of that coffee date is still going to be on that person as well as the woman. So,
but I think it has to be reciprocal. You get what I'm saying?
Like
and the Dutch reason why, no, not Dutch. What I'm saying there, listen, I tried to pay for my first date with a
kid. What I tell young men?
But
if she offers to go Dutch and she's insistent, you have no shot. There is no way she's going to be,
because she really don't want you to do that, right? Absolutely.
I mean, I think
I'm just a giver. So I'm like, no, come on, I want to share. But what I'm saying about reciprocity is this, and I'm learning this more as an educator who had an all boys class, as a
Eagle Academy or.
No, we just did an experiment one year, and it was my best year. I love my boys. Nice. And then also as a godmother of boys, one thing that we don't do is love on the boy. You get what I'm saying? So there's all these expectations, but what is he getting back in return? Right? And so that's why I said, like, it has to be kind of both showing up, both giving, both being authentic. And so that can happen anywhere.
You might reminded me of what I do with my kids. So, we have like door holders and things like that. I have taught my boys to hold the door. And then the girls will walk through and I'm like, oh, thank you. Right. So, I thought early. Right.
Because they need we all need validation, but it's a sign of respect and things of that nature. So
and girls can be door holders too. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
And for the millionaire who doesn't fully show how much he has, that's a protection, because more than likely he's probably been taken advantage of in those ways. And so I don't mind if the millionaire didn't tell me he was a millionaire until he's like, oh yeah, by the way, you've just inherited this because you want to be my wife. As long as there was that opportunity where we learned so much about each other and we share and things of that nature. Akil, I was like, my grocery bill is only $50 a month. He was like, no, it was $500 a month. I was like, no, when I was single, it was $50 a month. He was like, no, it was $500 a month. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, because all of our dates were about 450.
Right.
That's funny.
And I just never knew. I was like, oh. But, you know, while he paid for all those dates, and I'm so grateful, I also feel like he got something in return. And I'm not even talking about sex.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about he got me in return in those times.
Right.
And so that's what I think every mother of sons want.
He found a wife.
Right.
He found a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Obtained favor from the Lord.
That's right.
That's good.
And listen, ladies this goes back to Disney expectations. A lot of women, and I'm putting myself in that category. God has had to help unveil those eyes. A lot of women is like, we just want to be, is the whole pursuit comes from the man, but then you get married and now we're supposed to start doing our part. That's sweet. Like, that don't make sense. Yeah, a lot of Disney movies are just film in general, and it's not just film. It's just, again, societal expectations.
Rom-coms.
It's all male energy coming after the woman, and she's like, no, I don't want you.
If you're not a Noah, I can't have you.
Right. She plays hard to get, and he really gotta, like, you know, win her heart kind of thing. But well, what about, you're called to encourage and build him up as well.
Absolutely.
And so you were supposed to not do that at all during the dating, courting phase, whatever your word is. And then in marriage, now as wives, we're supposed to be submit, we're supposed to encourage and all the things. No, you got to start again.
Yeah. I was trying to think of, like, do we have any Disney movies that even replicate that? The Beauty and the Beast?
She got she got some she got a little fire, you know. But I think women gotta really that's part of some of the churchy things. You can encourage and build up, and or again, you could talk it out, right? Because every couple or every man is different. How would you feel about me paying? Or do you just want to cover all the meals? Like, I talk. I mean, communicate is a big part of it. But anyway, what were you?
I'm a little more traditional in that sense. Like, the guy should be paying.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm just saying.
Guy should be paying.
Yeah, I think so too.
So then I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, okay. Guys should be paying, right? Maybe they get married, right?
Yeah.
So when a guy is always paying and now they're married, what happens when the guy loses his job?
So that's where the transition goes into, this is not no longer my money and your money, this is ours. So this is probably off topic, but not. I find, and you know, there's some research that shows that this is the best model. When a married couple who are working, 2-income homes are working, they have one pot. There is no, you pay dinner for tonight, you pay dinner. No.
Right.
We're paying this.
Yeah.
We're doing this. This way, there's no argument about who's paying what bill, who's short on what bill, who's not working right now. It's all our money. So in the dating stage, fella, pay it. And if you vet it right, you can have a conversation about, well, if you vet it right, you may find somebody who understands that whatever she does earn, if she is working, regardless of how much she makes, whatever she is working and whatever she's making while she's working, she understands that this is still our income as well. That would be the ideal. So if he does lose a job and he's down and out, he's done the vetting process to know that I can be vulnerable enough to have my wife cover me at this specific moment until I'm able to get back on my feet and take over again. That makes sense.
It does. And at the same time, I think as a person who wants to be that helper, it's kind of hard just to, and maybe that's a part of submission that I haven't learned yet.
So maybe, but it's not a bad thing if you say, "Babe, I'm taking you out tonight." In the dating stage, like I'm taking you out tonight.
Right.
All right, this is my treat. I'm taking you out tonight. You know, as Usher would say, trading places. I am not encouraging you guys to listen to that song, but you know that's not a bad thing, and it also lets him know, wow, if she will potentially get me if things fall hard. That's another thing that men fear. Fear not being able to meet that specific need to provide.
No, I mean it's true. Because he paid for everything, so I can't even say I wasn't a participant in it. I think we did transition the conversation around finances once we got engaged. Like that was part of like our preparation of transitioning into, you know, that oneness in finances. But yeah, I
but even so, like, you know, the Proverbs 31 woman, she was a helpmate in the finances as well.
Yeah.
Because whatever, she had a business, but the business was funding her family. You know, she wasn't trying to be an entrepreneur. Like there was a reason why she was doing it.
She was doing right.
You know, and in the process, helping the family with that. So yeah, that's biblical. It's a biblical concept.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's talked about. And I mean, I feel like we've kind of circled around the same thing, but like we are taught more of what to look for with a man and what not to accept, but what you are supposed to do back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really needs to be talked about because those are vulnerable moments. Because when you think about a husband losing his job, like that's part of his identity.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, how do you care for that? Like I was blessed to see my grandmother care for my grandfather. He became legally blind when he was 50. Wow. So she had taken care of him from age like maybe 51, 52 to when he passed in his 80s. And so the roles shifted, you know, when my dad lost his job, like for a point in time, there was that space. And how do you learn how to honor your husband in that if your thought is he's supposed to be taking care of me, he's the provider, he's the protector, he's the this, and at the same time, how do you create a space where he can come into that home and feel like his emotions are protected, his, you know, there is provision of love and nurturing even to him, even in a time where he may not be fulfilling his role.
There was I mentioned this because it was a good quote. I don't endorse everything that she stands for, but Ayala Vazant mentioned something similar to that recently about how men are viewed and perceived in society. They're only valued if they can do something for others. Like, you know, if they're not, you know, if they can't do this and they can't do that, then no one's really checking for him. But you know what, though? I don't know necessarily if that's a bad thing. Because if I look at it, if men are not doing things, what kind of society would we have? So we teach young boys, we teach young boys that they should work with their hands and do things and do. That's not a bad thing.
No.
It could become bad when we teach, and I say this respectfully, if we teach young girls, if he's not doing this for you, then kick him to the curb. And that's where it could really get to that space where when you get married and he does have a mishap at work and he has to leave work, or he gets injured and he can't make money anymore, but he is getting Social Security, but it's not enough to make, pay for the bills. Do you stick it out because you value who he is and you fell in love with him and you committed to love him for the rest of your life, and vice versa?
That's good.
Men are visual, and they value the intimacy that requires intercourse.
Right.
I got students watching this sometimes. And what happens if something she gets to an accident and she can no longer give that to him?
Right.
Does he
Right.
just kick? No,
Right.
he doesn't kick her to the curb.
Right.
He doesn't find somebody else to meet that need either.
Right.
Now is where we practice what the Bible tells us to do in Galatians about the fruit of the Spirit. We practice self-control now.
Yeah.
Now, that's the
Self-control.
thing.
Yeah.
All of what you're saying, it just reminds me of how important this preparation season is for us, because we learn all of that now. And you can kind of, when you're looking for someone, you can spot all of that way before you are at the altar, right? And that's some of the things you should be noticing before you get there. Like, what kind of person is he? How is he treating his mother? Or and don't get me wrong, a lot of us come with a lot of trauma, but also knowing, I think I've realized in my singleness now the role I will play as a wife. I was telling Ruthie, I said, well, all y'all, I'm 3 years ago, I wasn't a wife. I thought I was. Like, I thought I was like, yeah, I'm a wife. I'm ready. The work that has been done, and I still got work to do, but the work that has been done in the last 2 years, I'm like, who is this?
Right.
But that's the thing. Even when bringing out fruit of the Spirit, that is a process.
Yeah.
That's not like tree, fruit.
Yeah.
No,
Right, yeah.
The seed has to be planted. It has to grow roots
has to die.
and grow. Right.
It is.
Yes.
Somebody talked about that in the podcast.
Yes.
I did. I brought that up.
Germination.
Germination.
I was quoting really Sharnice because she always loves as a former bio teacher, or she would talk a lot about the root system.
Because somebody gave somebody a plant, and they didn't, or a pot, whatever. They didn't know there was a seed inside of it, and they never.
Oh no, that was
Yeah.
Sharnice.
Oh, yeah. That's the story.
Yes. And
that's
it
a
was
good
just so
analogy.
crazy. All you got to do is water. Just
That's
read the
it.
directions. It said just put water on it.
Water.
But yeah, and then we always say, a lot of people that we know, for me, I'm like, I look at the relationships that I've viewed growing up, I'm like, and that have gotten divorces, I'm like, they probably didn't have to.
Right.
Had they watered each other.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And 5-10 years.
Yeah.
In hindsight, they start thinking,
Mm.
maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe I
Yeah.
should've.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too that going back to expectations as a perfectionist or working on that perfectionism, right? Letting go of it. I've said a lot more in the last couple of years, like, I want to go into marriage with this expectation of, yes, we will have challenges, we will have disagreements, and I want to view those as all part of the process.
Yes.
Like, that is part of how you become one. That's part of
That's
how you learn one another. Instead of viewing it as like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're fighting or we're arguing. It's like, actually, you don't develop intimacy on a deeper level. You don't develop that oneness unless, I'm gonna quote you because we were watching your friction.
Friction. Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Friction.
Yeah.
And so for me, managing that, like, no, I kind of expect that there's gonna be bumps. Expect it's gonna be challenging, but you, as educators, right? It's like, what lens are you bringing? Like, choose to see it through the lens of like, so how do we use this to grow instead of like, what happened? What's wrong with us? No, that's all part of being human.
No, listen, that's one of the greatest things I learned in the process of becoming a therapist. And one of my professors, who I think was also a pastor, he was like, a lot of people think that because of Disney, it's like the princess, she has to kiss the frog and then he'll become this prince and then it's off into the sunset. He was like, no. It's two frogs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So alleviating. And then now when I look back, I'm so grateful for like young dating life. Like, I had an intense, long relationship even when I was a teenager. But I was very spoiled. I was the only girl in the family, and they had to wait for me to be born for a long time. They told my mom she couldn't have kids. So by the time I arrived, it was like, the baby's here. Right. And so I was very spoiled. And so he had a car, and I was waiting in the car. So he opens the door, because again, I'm taught that way. Of course, that's what you do. I get in the car, and I just sit. And he goes to open his door, and he's like, knock, knock. Wow. And I was like, oh, yeah, I could do that. I just had to hit a button. And finally, he just had this moment with me in a very gentle way, but direct. He was like, you could just, I don't mind opening the door for you, but I would appreciate it if you would just regularly, unlock the door for me. And I was like, yeah, okay. But I was a teenager. I didn't understand what he was really saying to me. And to this day, part of where I try to purposely love on my husband, I say thank you a lot.
Yeah.
That's how Cologio realized that homegirl was a good one from the Bronx tale.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I wasn't taught that part. I was taught what he was supposed to do for me. Right. So I had to learn.
Yeah.
Actually, the I forgot her name. To her, the young lady who she helped lead worship at a church right down the street here.
Okay.
Yeah. Agape Christian Worship Center.
Oh yeah.
Heard of that.
This close? Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize.
5 minutes from here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is invigorating.
I know, right?
We can keep talking.
I appreciate
forever.
right.
Yeah.
Such
The
a
reason why I keep looking at my
beautiful.
watch is because I have a brother coming by.
Oh.
He's pulling. He just said he's pulling up now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
No, this was so good.
Thank
So
you.
good.
This was really
So
good.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a little late though, because that's why I gotta leave here at 4. So we'll see what we can talk about. But yeah, man, I really appreciate this, and thank you guys for taking the time out and having this conversation with me. It was eye-opening. It was genuine. It was real. And thank you guys for being your genuine selves. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we go, if you look in the middle or camera facing you, and let us know any social media handles, how we can stay connected with you guys.
Okay, yeah, you can find me on Instagram at, I think it's Heartbeats with a Z. Heartbeats Podcast, I think _.
You got to
That might be the only.
Exactly.
And I'm also on Facebook, Heartbeats, or I think Heartbeats Podcast. Yeah, would be the best way. And then I'm also just, my name is on, I think I'm Ruthie. Ruthie Lair. Go with the Heartbeats.
Right. So I am on Instagram, Herspecs, HERSPECS. No, I'm not. It's _ Herspecs. That's what it is. Yeah. So _. And then on YouTube, it's her space TV.
Her Specs TV. How you doing, Pastor Ken?
Yes. And I currently have a new series out called How'd You Come to Christ, where I am having a conversation with people about how they came to Christ.
I love it.
You can find me on Instagram at Farrah.Danielle. It's my real government. And soon to be upcoming because I'm an aspiring writer. So there'll be things that'll be linked to that Instagram. So
on Instagram, it's SJenkins5382.
That sounds right.
Shar5382.
That's
one of them. Facebook is Sharnice Jenkins Gallant. And then we also have Through His Lens Ministries, THL Ministries on Instagram, and Through His Lens on Facebook.
All right. Yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Guys, make sure you guys connect with them on their social media handles. This was a great conversation. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think.
Yes.
Really appreciate you guys for watching.
Yes.
If
Any
you have not
questions?
done so yet and you made it this far in the video, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so it'll let you know when I upload new videos, when I go live. And if you want to support the channel, you can also hit that little super thanks to help support the channel as well. But I do appreciate you guys for watching, and hopefully some value was added to your life today.
Absolutely.
And again, if you have any questions about relationships, I would recommend hitting these sisters up. All right?
Right.
So God bless. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until the next uploaded live stream, I'm out.
Yes.
Hey.
Bye, guys.